That's only possible. You can only it can only be possible if, to give competitive rate, the rate that is far below the competition in the fintech industry, if we can be sure of that target borrowers are low also in terms of risk.
I think it's pretty interesting that Dumi also approaches not only online but also in person.
Yes.
Because it'll be easier to manipulate data if it's only based on inputs. So it's really great to hear that.
Yeah.
So you also mentioned previously about the credit risk being the same with banking systems, traditional ones. But what are some maybe the key performance indicators of Dumi that ensures that their success towards this banking system can be better off than their competitors, for example?
Yeah, the basic things are still the same. When I said that it's the same 5C, it doesn't mean it's totally the same. I mean, there are also some adjustment that we made, just as we mentioned before, that we come to face-to-face with the prospective borrowers. And also about these KPIs. Basically, our KPIs are the same with other financial fintech players or even financial industry players, like NPL, non-performing loans, like margin, how much is the margin that we can get from one transaction, etc., etc. But to be specific, we can say ourselves we are still in the startup period, probably, or already at the maturing period of startup. Still startup, but already in a maturing period. It depends on how you define startup, sure. But the difference is, if we know that we are in this stage, we know that we need to have growth. Yeah. So growth. So we look into also how fast we are in catching up with the demand. We are still very far below the total population of civil servants, only about 5% of the total population. We need to catch up. So the addition or the disbursement rate is important, the KPI. Another important is repayment, NPL, of course, but the repayment here means also how fast that we can recover the credit that we channel to the borrowers.
Okay, so some of the key performance indicators that you said were the disbursement and the repayments. However, recently there are a lot of cases of financial frauds and scams. So what are your opinion about the safety and the trust of the platform from Dumi? Do they ensure that their lenders and their borrowers are all kept in a secured financial platform?
Yes, it is important. Security is important, particularly because you're using mobile application, right? So as I said before, we don't 100% rely on digital verification or digital checking. We also come face to face with the target borrowers or prospective borrowers. And Indonesia has already developed a system, quite promising actually. There are many vendors of this security checking, based on biometric checking, and also based on the face scan, and many kinds of the thing. But on top of that, we also have this. Well, credit checking is important on the future possibility of the borrowers to repay their loans. For that, we need to have more than just what they input into the system, but we're talking about lifestyle. We're talking about their financial literacy, whether they know. Well, some people just borrow for borrowing money, right? As well, silly, like some young people, it's just for intuitive borrowing. That is, it's one of the things that we have to check, whether it's just intuitive or whether they are going to use it really for. And then it's very it's very pleased to know that most of the credit that they receive in this civil apparatus, they use to something like productive, quote unquote productive. It is a multi-purpose financing, but they use it for something like for school, for their children. They need to enroll to the school. They need for the renovation of their house. They need to for their transportation. They need to purchase a motorcycle probably. So it's not something like intuitive or consumptive only, behavior.
I think it's good that Dumi has a strong risk policies, but life happens, so maybe there may be people that cannot repay, or they will delay the payment for a long time. So how do Dumi deal with that?
Yeah, sure. In every credit there must be that. So we try to limit the number of non-performance loan to as low as possible. Yeah, 5% is the maximum mandated by OJK, but the lowest is better. But yeah, life happens because people die also. People die, and also people get involved in something that is most misfortune for them. That it also happens. Then we also insure. Yeah, we put into insurance for the borrowers. Life insurance, also credit insurance. One thing to mitigate the risk, and also we make sure again that we make sure that the credit checking, even though we are not very proud of the process. I mean it's quite long process of credit assessment, but we make sure that it is adhered to, and we are disciplined in the process of credit assessment.
Talking about the NPL now, that brings us to talk about the broader trends in the industry. So there's this recent data that I found from OJK. So it states that the TWP 90, tingkatan prestasi di atas 90 hari, which measures the percentage of loans overdue by over than 90 days. It actually shows a positive shift from 2.52% in January 2025 from 2.60% in December 2024. So that slight increase, what do you think improves that default rate? Is it because of the regulation from the platforms, or from the borrower sides, or what do you think about that?
Both, I think, for many aspects. OJK itself, we have to pay respect to the current policies from the OJKs. They continuously upgrade their standard of compliance. Yeah, they want to make sure that all the players within the industry adhere to the regulation that they provide, and they also consolidate the industry. What I mean by consolidating is that they require a certain amount of capital for this platform financing, so that we can be sure of that the business or the industry players within this industry are the one who have the capability and also the capacity, and also they also make sure that the know your customer, for example, is implied, also applied within the industry across all the fintech lending players. They are required to know the customers well within the industry, and use the system. And if we are talking about the borrower itself, the existence of fintech in general and fintech lending in particular also increase their awareness and literacy, actually. So they are aware about this. New finance students are not difficult to be convinced about when to borrow, when to stop borrow, when to invest, right? But for them, for common people, they need certain knowledge about that, and this fintech technology has made them give them access towards the products, and at the same time give them access to the knowledge about what to know in finance.
Right. So in terms of the financial literacy itself, you're saying that the people who are from the rural areas would most probably have less to non-financial literacy at all. Or for example, first-time borrowings, for example, they may also have a lack of financial literacy. So it brings us to the next question. What strategy do you think is effective to increase the financial literacy among users in rural or low-income areas?
Yeah, it's a big question actually. But to start with, actually Indonesia have already reached to a level where we give access to financing or financial services, let me put it that way, quite big enough. Even though we are in Southeast Asia, among peer countries, we are still behind. I mean, there are two things here that I want to mention: financial literacy and financial inclusion. In terms of inclusion, means that all people can get access to financial services, right? Like loan, deposit, banking, whatever. Those are financial. services. In terms of financial inclusion and financial literacy, we are still the way as a developing country. Okay, but what is more important is it turns out that financial inclusion is much higher than financial literacy. That's the data of OJK until now. So meaning what? Meaning it creates a certain risk. Yeah. Meaning that maybe they just borrow for the sake of borrowing. They don't know whether they really know it. They don't know not only for productivity. They don't know whether they can repay. That's why we see that many victims of judo in the past, judi online. It's also part of the illegal pinjol. Illegal pinjol, and then becomes because it is too easy. They get the money from pinjol, and then they are involved in judi online, gambling online. Now, to answer your questions, how then to increase the financial literacy? With this financial inclusion higher percentage than financial literacy, we can then use the financial inclusion arms. What I mean by arms is this: fintech companies. They need to come to the prospective borrowers not only to offer the money, but also to offer the education for them, just also to enlighten them, if you like, enlighten them. Hey, you borrow money, that's a big thing, though. It's not something taken for granted. I will just money and I will spend it forever what I want. No, that happens to many students, right? You know that some students get involved in this and then make them stressful and then ruin their life. So this is the opportunity actually. So with this platform, and Indonesia is one of the countries who are very much conversant in social media, right? Use social media also for this to educate them, to increase the financial literacy. Because otherwise it's very dangerous. If you can get the money just like a kid, you give them access to knife, hurt himself.
Very risky.
Very risky.
So it's really important to balance between inclusion and also
and
the
literacy. Yeah.